Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio app. Download today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. Not sure if we'll be connecting with Tim Bray or not today. Just got a text message from him just a few minutes ago, dealing with a couple of things this afternoon with Tim. So we'll see. If you're watching the show live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, welcome. I refuse to call that thing X. Doesn't make any sense. I don't care what they call it. You can say it's not a retweet. It is a retweet. You can say you're going to X the show. That doesn't make any sense. I never want this show X'd, right? That means it's over. I want this show tweeted. Tweet to the program. Be a part of what we do. 803-450-0086. The NIL Conversation edition here. We'll go 20 minutes with you today, and then we'll jump over to iHeartRadio. Right at 4 o'clock, you can catch this segment, and you can catch the rest of the program until 6 o'clock. Every day, no matter where you are in the world, on the iHeartRadio app. So chime in. You want to talk Clemson Duke, you want to do all that, please feel free. You want to share what we're doing right now, hit that share button. If you do share it, I'll put you in the share zone, and we'll pop your name up over on the screen. And there's so many ways that you can be a part of what we do. We'll have content today coming out of Tigertown. Dabo Swinney spoke yesterday after practice. He was asked about the construction of Clemson's roster. You can read about that on our website. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. ClemsonSportsTalk.com. It's right there if you're looking at the screen right now, if you're watching. And, of course, it's $1 to join to get premium content. Not everything is premium. We're probably an 80-20 model, maybe more. We're probably more of a 90-10, 10% of the stuff is behind the paywall. But come join us. If you like what we're doing, support us. Help us continue to grow. After your trial ends, it's $63.17. That's right, $63.17 for 1 year of coverage of your Tigers. And you tell your Gamecock buddies that. They love it.
So you can continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
The late, great Cleveland man. 803-450-0086. So a lot of conversations to get to with you here today. But the most notable in college football doesn't really exist right now around Clemson. It exists around Caleb Williams, the reigning, defending Heisman Trophy winner. And his father's statements that he said in a recent interview talking to GQ about his son and the sentiment that he may very well not be done with college football after this year. Now, Caleb Williams is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy for a second consecutive year. And Southern Cal, under the guidance of Lincoln Riley, is expected to have a very good season in their final year in the Pac-12. I think it's fair to call it the defunct Pac-12, the defunct Pac-12 at this point, the remaining members being Oregon State and Washington State. More on that certainly as we move on down the line now with the ACC adding Stanford, Cal, and then SMU joining the Power Five. I think the structure of the future of college football is in 72 to 84 teams, and I think that's going to be who's playing at the highest level. All that being said, one thing that has changed is NIL and the amount of money that players can make. And we don't really know how much any individual necessarily is getting for their name, image, and likeness. Deion Sanders claims that some schools offered Travis Hunter upwards of $1.5 million to come and play at their universities when he was in the transfer portal before joining Deion in Colorado. Now, you watch him play this past weekend against TCU, and I'm going to be honest with you, that kid was all over the field, playing both sides of the football, 110 snaps, somewhere in that range, interception, big receptions. I mean, he was doing everything. The question I really have about about Colorado and Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders and Shador and all of that is how long do they keep the momentum? Like it felt good beating TCU, but can you keep it up? They've got Nebraska this week. It's a 10 a.m. kickoff, Colorado time. So the first home game with Deion there, 10 a.m. So they'll be kicking off at noon. Nonetheless, NIL and that 1.5 million may be enough to entice some people to, instead of turning pro, to stick around another year. And Caleb Williams' father, Carl, said this in an interview. He said, the funky thing about the NFL draft process is he'd almost be better off not being drafted than being drafted first. The system is completely backwards. The way the system is constructed, you go to the worst possible situation, the worst possible team, the worst organization in the league. Because of their desire for parity, that's who gets the first pick. So it's a gift and a curse. Now, there are situations in sports, say in the NBA, where the San Antonio Spurs, for example, have one of the best big men in the league in David Robinson. Robinson's injured. This is around 96, 97. And they end up having a terrible year. They end up landing Tim Duncan, along with Duncan, Robinson, Popovich, Ginobili, Tony Parker. You go through the success that the Spurs had. I mean, you can make the argument that Tim Duncan got drafted to one of the best franchises in the NBA because of the way they constructed their entire lineup, their entire roster. Well, right now, the projections would be that the Arizona Cardinals, who are a non-desirable location to land at this point, would potentially get the first pick. And I can understand from the standpoint of Carl Williams saying, I don't know that that's what I would like my son to do or where I want him to go. He mentioned the fact that he had consulted with Archie Manning, who ended up with the Saints early on in his career, and just never really was able to have a great opportunity because he didn't have good protection, gets banged up, injured. What happens if you hurt your shoulder? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it all. And so maybe if you're Caleb Williams, you decide that you are going to take a chance. You're going to go ahead and stick around another year collegiately. Yes, you could get injured. All those same things could happen. But if you're on a really good team, collegiately, the likelihood is probably less that you get hurt than you get hurt playing professionally. And then I think you get into how much money do you really need, right? Because if we go back to the days before NIL, if you were Caleb Williams, and I have no idea what his family's income looks like, I don't know any of that around his story, and everybody's got their own unique story. But there would certainly have been a time for players where undoubtedly you would have been better off just going pro to spare your family the struggle that they may be living in and from having to live, paycheck to paycheck or even living under, the poverty level. And so, of course, if you were a player that you could go on and make millions and millions of dollars, you would probably seek that route as fast as possible. Well, now, because of NIL, and I don't think it's apples to apples in terms of the money. Like, I don't think any player collegiately is going to make the type of money that they could make professionally. This is not some kind of high-fangled math formula that I'm putting together here. This is very simple. Those kids on campus right now in large numbers, the best players are making a lot more than you are. I kind of touched on this yesterday when I went into the talking points about how fans feel maybe about players. The timeline and the era of, oh, these are amateur athletes. That's gone away for a lot of fans because they're looking at what their paycheck says at the end of every week or every 2 weeks, and they're seeing what they believe the players are making. But if you go back to the upper echelon of players in the world of college football, if you're focused on those guys for a minute and you say to yourself, why wouldn't they just go take the big money in the NFL? Well, if I know I'm going to the worst franchise in the league, I might choose to stick around, make $1.5, $2 million a year, and then hope that by the time I'm drafted the following season, that there's a team sitting there now it's a little roll of the dice because you could end up in a worse situation, but you might not. You might end up in a better situation. The player can kind of dictate what they want to do. Well, why wouldn't they go take $32 million a year, or whatever the contracts end up being, or $32 million over 4? Why don't they go take the big money? Why are they just going to take 1.5? Why are they just going to take $2 million? Well, let me ask you something. If you were a kid making $1.5 million a year, and you had parents that were, working the 9 to 5, your meager means, if you will, you think 200,000 of that can't help out a family that's making 30, 35 with maybe 2 people working? Oh, people make more than that, 20. Okay, sure. You want people to make more? You think 200,000 can't help out a family that's making 60 combined income? You think 200,000 can't help somebody out that's making 100,000 combined income? You see where I'm going? The majority of these kids who are making the top level money collegiately because of name, image, and likeness don't have to feel pressured to go make 10 times more in the NFL in order to find a better destination so that they can think long-term about their career and maybe make 50 times more in the NFL. It's risky. I don't think Caleb Williams will sit it out. Again, I don't know his parents' financial situation either. But if you felt like you could ride it out an extra season, make a couple of $1 million, send however much back home necessary to make things a lot better for your family, right? You hear stories, you see stories online, guys like Shannon Sharp showing the home he grew up in, guys like Nick Eason, a little closer to home, going by and showing the house that he grew up in. You think sending home $350,000, buying a house for your parents, you think that doesn't make a big enough difference for some of these kids for them to decide that, maybe the best case scenario is not to go play for the worst team in the NFL this season? I mean, look, we can talk about the bad things that NIL have brought to the forefront of college football. It's out there. There's plenty that you could dive into from that standpoint. But if the case is that some players might return for a 4th or 5th year that would otherwise go pro, if that's a bad thing, then sign me up for more of that bad stuff. Sign me up for more guys returning. If that's bad, I remember I was watching in the movie Coming to America. Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy play about 12 parts apiece in that movie. And in one of them, Arsenio Hall is the preacher. And the preacher says something along the lines of, if loving the Lord is wrong, I don't want to be right. Well, let me tell you, if having kids come back because they're making money collegiately, because they want to protect themselves from landing on the worst team in the NFL, is wrong, I don't want to be right. And I'm okay if Caleb Williams makes a decision like this. I don't know that he will. I don't believe that he will. I think the dangling carrot of the extra money is probably way too much for a lot of guys to resist. But at least if you want to talk about a potential positive out of the NIL conversation, is that kids collegiately who, and look, I'm a guy that would prefer that NIL not be a thing. I would just prefer that. I liked it better when college football felt like the kids in the dorm. Like I knew that the football players were eating better than me. Like I knew it, but it was kind of on the down low. You know, I'm eating at Harcum. They're in the basement of Schletter. Now it's like you're in Harcum. They're at some sort of 5-star resort, right? Where there's unlimited free food and it's all shrimp and lobster. And I'm looking at the truck pulling up to the side of Harcum that says, you know, when they'd have steak night and you gave you a little ticket. Remember, you got one little ticket. Get your grubby little hands on the ticket. And it was like grade D edible.
You were serious about that?
I'm pretty sure they were. I'm pretty sure they were serious. But they had a ticket. I had a little ticket stub. Your buddy didn't want steak. Oh, can I have your ticket stub? I'll go up there and get a steak. Man, we thought we were big time. And the football players were eating like kings then, and now it's tenfold time that. You know, my sister actually said something to me, and I don't want to necessarily shift gears off of the NIL thing, but I'll wrap it up by saying this. I do think it's a positive that players can now give back and help out their families, because I can't imagine being a kid in school, like so many of these players have been for years, knowing the circumstances that your family was living in and feeling like you could not do anything. That's where the players were impressionable to take money from boosters, because if I can give $5,000 back to my family, that's huge for me. Well, now it's a little different. It's a little more on the up and up. And additionally, the money can be so great that you could change your family's lives enough that you don't have to just move on to the NFL. You can enjoy the collegiate experience. You could finish your degree, which is also important. A lot of guys never finish their degree because they felt like they had to go pro. But one thing my sister did say, and again, we can talk about this when we come back from the break, talking about Clemson and Duke. I wasn't at the game. I had to work on Tuesday. You know, this is not the only job, right? But I wish I had some NIL deals. But she was like, you should have seen the contraption that our football team had on the sidelines to keep themselves cool versus what Duke had. Duke just had metal benches. Our guys were sitting on a thing that was like a complete air conditioning system. She goes, maybe our team's just a little soft because of that. Maybe our guys don't need that kind of stuff. Maybe they just need to toughen up a little bit. I mean, I am the guy that asked Trevor Lawrence one time. I took a lot of heat from this. I just phrased it wrong. I asked Trevor if people thought he was soft. Not you. If teams thought that they could just hit him and hurt him because he'd always get cheap shotted. I shouldn't have said soft. Soft's a bad word for that situation. A lot of people say, I can't believe Swanee would ask that question. I just meant, do people think they can hurt you? Do you believe that the other players want to take cheap shots to knock you out? Because what happened, I'm going to tell you what happened. Every time teams hit Trevor Lawrence.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, he hulked up on them. All right, we got to hit a break. If you're watching live right now on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, don't worry. We're coming back 4 o'clock on the iHeartRadio app. We're going to rock and roll along with you. Hang out with us for 2 hours. I'll let you know about Tim Beret in just a little bit. I'm not sure about his schedule. But again, I appreciate everybody being a part of this. And if you're catching this on the reboot, we're going to reset this thing tonight around 8 o'clock online. Appreciate you as well. Head over to the website. Put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. We'll talk to y'all again tomorrow for about 20 minutes right here on the show that shakes the Southland.